I bet you all didn't expect to see a video from me so soon again. Well, here we are, and it is a sequel to my last video, a review of the Pendragon first book, Marked of Death. This is a review of the second book, The Lost City of Faar. Again, it is the second book in the Pendragon series by DJ McHale, and this is one of the sadder ones. One of the sadder books until we get near the end. And so there's still more. The first three, maybe up to reality bug, I would say, are middle grade, upper high school. But after maybe Rivers of Zada, it is more young adult more aimed. So, let's on with Lost City of Faar. To start out, it's basically where we left off. Bobby is gone with Lore and Uncle Press to the next territory they have to save. And so, Press tells Lore that she needs to go back to her home territory of Zada and keep an eye on things there because things are starting to boil up there. And Bobby and Press are going to go to the territory of Chloral. And so they go to Chloral, and Bobby is in for a big shock. Chloral, imagine Camino on Star Wars, but all sunny, like tropical. That is Chloral, and it is amazing. Press says Chloral is his favorite territory. And so, we get onto Chloral, and we very quickly meet the traveler, the to-be traveler for Chloral, whose name is Spader. And he's a teen guy, like upper teens, lower 20s. I'd say. He doesn't really ever specify his age, just says he's a few years older than Bobby. So I'd say maybe 18, 19 at this point. But the thing is, Spader does not know anything about travelers yet. His father, Ben Spader, has not told him anything about the travelers yet. And so Spader takes them to his home, because there's no land on Chloral at all, except for one place, but that'll come important later. So the people of Chloral live on these big barges called habitats. The places they live on are called habitats, and they all have their own different functions. Spader lives on the one called Grallion. And Grallion is a farming habitat. So they grow the food for a lot of Chloral. And Press has made up the story for him and Bobby that they are intellectuals from a far off habitat, a city habitat that is like very scholarly, and they're there to learn about the different habitats of Chloral. So they're there and they work in the farms of Chloral for about 2 months, and not much happens during that time. Bobby and Spader become pretty good friends for most of that bit, and then one day there is one of the other habitats is coming in to get some supplies. And this is the habitat that Spader's father lives on. It's called Magarin. And so they've come to get supplies. And there's the thing with these habitats, they're huge. They're humongous. And so they stay like about a half mile apart at least. when they're making these transfers, and they send smaller boats to get the supplies and bring them back. But Magarin isn't stopping, and it crashes into Grallion, but they stop it enough before it becomes fatal, or so they think for now. So all the Aquaniers that live on the ship, the Grallion, they go and they try to see what's going on, and they notice that nobody's on the deck of the other ship, freaking like all nervous and worried. So they get on the ship, and they discover that everyone on board has been killed, or more rather, poisoned. And they don't know how yet. So it's under investigation. And Spader finds that his father is among these. Every single person on Magarin is dead. So it's a few days later now. Spader's like all upset because his dad is dead, and Bobby hasn't yet told him, they haven't told him about the travelers yet, because he is now the traveler for Chloral. And so one day, these basically pirates attack the ship, and their leader is Saint Dane in disguise, and they are going to steal food. So Bobby and Spader are gonna stop the turbines somehow. So they go and they stop the turbines, but they're trapped. So they make it to the flume, and Bobby asks Spader, "Do you trust me?" And Spader's like, "Oh, sure." And so they travel to Zada, because Bobby figures it's time to tell Spader about all this, the traveler stuff. And he figures that Lore can help him tell Spader, because she helped him learn stuff a little bit. So they're on Zada, and they stay there for a few days, because time isn't really relative between the territories. So they can stay however long they like, and it won't matter. So they stay, and Lore helps Bobby explain to Spader what's going on. And Spader is pissed, because he now knows who killed his father, Saint Dane. Because they figured out that they were poisoned by food that was grown by Grallion, because of, they made this fertilizer, and it turned out to be poisonous, to make the plants poisonous after a while of use. So that's how all the people in Grallion were poisoned. And so, eventually they travel back to Chloral and explore Magarin a little bit more to figure out what happened. And Spader finds a piece of paper in his father's hand, and it looks like it's a map to this place called Faar. And Faar is a legend on Chloral. It is supposedly the only dry land at all. And eventually, it was sunk under the waves. So it's kind of like Atlantis a little bit. But it's, nobody on Chloral believes it's true. It's like a bedtime story. And Spader doesn't really think about it, but he wants to go see his mother on the habitat of Pandra City. So Bobby, Press, and Spader go to Pandra City, and of course, the same as Bobby's house, there is no trace of his life in Pandra City, or his mother has disappeared, of course. So he searches in the one hiding spot that he thinks nobody would ever be able to find, in his room and attic. and doesn't find anything there, except the other half of the map that his father had. And now they're all starting to think this means something important if the both of them are there with his parents. So they decide they are going to follow this map and see if they find Faar. And so they go to Faar and they find it, of course, because why wouldn't they, and stuff like that? Because Faar is real and is underwater, surrounded by this big dome. And so they also find out that the Farians have created an antidote for the poison, and so they are going to send it out ASAP, because all the food on chloral on all the different barges is now poisoned. So they're going to send it out now. But they come under attack, and Faar is basically destroyed. So, but they managed to get the haulers of antidote out and spread to the different places. So they win chloral. It's a victory. So they go back to Gralian, heroes of chloral. And so eventually they decide that Press, Bobby, and Spade are going to go to the next territory, which they think is Velox, because that's where St. Dane alluded that he was going to go next. So they go to the flume, and they're about to leave when they see, and St. Dane is there, of course. And he travels through the flume, yelling, Velox. And Spader's in shock and not moving because he wants to go after St. Dane because he's really angry about his father. So he's not moving. And some bullets fly through the flume. And Press shoves Spader out of the way and takes the bullets himself. And Press is killed. And now Bobby's flipping out because his uncle is dead and he can't do anything for it at all. And Bobby is like, Press is like in his final moments, he's like, go to Velox, this is the way it was meant to be. So Bobby finally accepts that his uncle is gone, and they have the funeral there on chloral. And Bobby is now alone, except for Spader. And he's pretty upset at Spader for getting Press killed, in essence. But he can't be on his own at the next territory of Velox. And so Bobby and Spader go to the flume, and they decide to go to Velox. And that's where that ends, with Bobby and the travelers. And of course, during this time, Mark and Courtney are receiving the journals, and they know better now than to send things through the flume, of course. So they're getting the journals, and Mark leaves one of them in the bathroom at school. So he's searching, he asks the custodian or anyone where it is. And he finds out that Andy Mitchell, the school bully, has found them and is trying to blackmail Mark with them. And so Andy's like, let me read the other journals. So Mark has no choice but to agree. So they go to his house, and Andy's like, you better not tell Courtney, or I'll pummel you. And so Mark and Andy go to Mark's house, and Mark gets the other journals for Andy to read. And Andy steals them. And Mark figures it's time to tell Courtney. So they come up with a plan. They type the journals and take them to the police station to show them what they've been doing, maybe to try and cope with it. And then Andy tries to turn them in, but they have already turned in the journals that they typed, and Andy looks like a fool. And so that's the end of the Lost City of Faar. And there's, of course, a bunch of little details in between. Like, there's this drink called Sniggers that I think would be really interesting to try. And then, it would be just, I think Coral is, of course, I agree with Press, it's my favorite territory. One of my favorite territories. Although I would have to get used to being on the water 24 hours a day, every day. But other than that, it just sounds so awesome. It's one of my favorite territories. And Spader is the best. He's so confident and cheeky. He's hilarious. He's basically the life of the party, if you want to say that. He's hilarious. And it's so sad to see him all so angry at Saint Dane. Of course, Saint Dane deserves all the hate he gets, but it's so devastating to see Spader, after his father's death, just huddle up in his house. And then, of course, Press's death. I was so shocked that this happened so early in the series. I mean, the Mentor, of course, they're not going to be around forever. But I didn't think they'd kill him off book 2 of 10. I mean, come on. But of course, and there's hope, though, I think. I know I've read all the books. There's hope for Bobby has hope because his uncle has said that they will see each other. He said in his final moments that they'll see each other again, and that this is the way it was meant to be. So there's hope, but it's still sad. It's still sad to see Bobby like that. And I mean, so that is the Lost City of Faar. It's one of my favorite of the series. Hope you enjoy it.